This is the story of how we bought this van after a lot of deliberation and turned it from this to this in 6 weeks. So when we bought this van in the summer of last year, I hadn't started making videos yet. So this is just a combination of Instagram stories and anything else that we have, pictures and videos of the van. And I'm just going to narrate over the top and tell you a little bit extra information about how we built our van. Yee! You're off! Oh my god, first time in a second year in a van. You ready for third? There it is. Oh yeah. We have a rolling house now! Yay!
Do you like it, Haggis?
Yes.
Cut it.
Okay. So we got to work pretty much straight away as soon as we brought the van home. So once everything was all nice and clean and sound deadened and those weird holes were all filled in, it was time to move on to the floor. So we removed the original plywood floor that was in the van, and underneath we added some wood struts with 2.5mm Celotex insulation. We then added some aluminium tape to all the seams and replaced the ply floor over the top. So something that we didn't consider when we added all the insulation to the floor was that the height of the floor was now 2.5 centimeters higher. Lewis had the good idea of using the sander to try and remove some of that height, which in hindsight was not a very good decision because we were putting laminate over the top of it anyway, so yeah, that wasn't a very good idea. But we ended up going round to our good old friends, the Brooksies, love the Brooksies, and they had a big powerful saw that managed to cut 2 centimeters off of that piece of rubber, which meant that the door would close properly again. So after that disaster was averted, it was time to move on to insulation. So the insulation took about 2 to 3 days, and we insulated absolutely every single surface that we could get our hands on, and the places that we couldn't get our hands on, we filled with spray foam.
What was that? What was that?
Huh? So next up was the fan. For us as first-time builders, it was definitely a very scary undertaking because we were literally cutting a huge hole in the roof of our brand new van. Yeah, you just have to trust in your own measurements and do it. So at this point we were ready to lay the floor, and because we were working with a very small budget, we tried to repurpose as many things as we could find. So we actually had 4 different types of laminate that we used to cover our tiny floor, which were donated from 3 different houses, and then 1 we bought from a shop on sale for £5. So our whole floor cost us £5. So next came the pre-wiring and the carpeting to get ready for our ply walls. The pre-wiring was another quite daunting task, but again, you just have to trust that you've done your research, you know what you're doing, you understand your wires and your currents and all this, and you double check yourself, triple check yourself, make sure that you've got it right and you know that you've got it right, and then you can install with confidence. So after that close call with the yacht varnish, the walls went up pretty easily after that. So we saved the plastic panelling that came with the van and used them as stencils to cut out our plywood with. Instead of using the wooden struts that you'll see a lot of people use in van builds, we decided that because our van had a little metal rim around all the areas where we were inserting ply, we were just going to use sheet metal screws to drill straight into that metal and then save the cost of the wood and save the time of all the cutting and the preparation of all that ribbing. A little bit of context for this next clip. Lewis is a dick and I scare easily. Anyway, back to some productive stuff. So I think my favourite part of the whole van build was the framing process, because you got to begin to see the things that you'd only imagined and sketched out actually become 3D objects that you could put in the van and start to visualise what the final product was going to look like. So once we had painted and installed all the cupboard doors and the trims and the handles and everything, it all started to really feel like a proper house all coming together, and then the ceiling went in. Yeah, this was a very exciting time. We opted for solar as the main source of power for our build, just because it's such a green option and we're all about that. At this stage, with the kitchen fully framed, we knew exactly what space we had for our bed, so we were able to get the wonderful Brooksies, to weld our metal bed frame together and have them fit it into the van for us. And then I also went and picked up my first ever downhill bike in preparation for going to Morzine in a few weeks. I should say that weld that you saw getting duct taped, we did actually get that re-welded. Our bed frame is not held together by duct tape, I swear. Also, you'll see in this clip the cupboards that we built. We have basically no footage of the cupboards apart from the accidental paint square that I painted onto the driveway and then the cat really liked. Because they only took me one day, so it was a very, very quick process and we actually don't have any footage of it, but you can see them. We then moved on to plumbing, which was an incredibly easy thing to do actually, apart from the one leak that we had, but we fixed that.
Yeah, destroy our kitchen counter.
We just used a foot pump for our plumbing system. We just have a big water butt, 50 litres, and that through the foot pump sucks water up through our lovely copper tap and down into a 10 litre grey water tank underneath. It's really so simple and so easy. Now, having less than a week until our ferry was leaving the UK, we had no more time to procrastinate, so we had to crack on with the electrics. Obviously electrics is a very scary thing to be dealing with, but just go slow with it, give yourself time, and hopefully it all works out. Wow! Oh my goodness. Oh, look! Happy. By this point we were pretty exhausted. We'd been at this build for coming on 6 weeks and we'd been putting in a lot of late nights and everything, so we were tired, but the electrics was really the last big thing that we were worried about. So we just had one more thing to tackle before we could leave, and that was the bike tray. the day before we left was pretty crazy, and we just finished off all of the little leftover things that we needed to do before we set off. Then the time had come to say goodbye to the dogs for 6 weeks and head off to France. We're currently putting together a little video of our trip to Morzine as well, so that'll be coming out soon. But here's just some clips of the things that we got up to once we got back from Morzine, and then we'll get to the good bit, the before and afters. Once we got home and life started to become a bit slower again, we swapped out the bikes for the dogs. So we built them a little bedroom type area where the bikes used to be, and they really like it down there. So of course in the UK, summer starts to very, very quickly turn into winter. So in an attempt to winterize the van, we bought a Chinese diesel heater and installed it. So that is how we turned a big empty van into a home on wheels in 6 weeks. So I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed building it. So if you go down below into the description box, you will find a link to a spreadsheet that was our absolute holy grail during this van build, and it managed to keep us on schedule, you know, keep track of all our expenses and everything like that. So if you want a good reference of a realistic budget and timeline of a van build, then feel free to check that out. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Bye!